to equip our Australian allies with cutting-edge U.S. attack submarines to help deter in the Indo-Pacific and clear the way for closer collaboration between all three nations on advanced defense technologies. Like Ranking Member Wicker, Vice Chair Collins, and many other colleagues on both sides of the aisle have been supportive of this important effort. Outcompeting China.
I'm so glad you're here today. You have a doctorate in chemical engineering. It's my understanding that most natural gas pipelines, and we talked about them, are not equipped to ship blends of methane and hydrogen where the hydrogen component is greater than 20%. Could you please explain to all of us how a conventional natural gas pipeline differs from a pipeline which is capable of shipping blends with more than 20% hydrogen?
Sure. Thank you for the question, Senator Barrasso. So hydrogen, being such a small molecule and corrosive, can create cracks and attack imperfections.
Are stimulus checks going to be sent out immediately? I know many of you are wondering what's the status for fourth round of stimulus payments. Well, new information has just been released, everybody. I know many of you are hoping for another round of enhanced child tax credit law this year passed by congressional lawmakers. However, you might live in one of the many states making plans to send more money to families between this year and 2023. The last monthly child tax credit payment was disbursed in December, with the final check arriving after parents filed their tax returns this year. There is a Republican Senate proposal that would send up to $350 per child and includes a work requirement. The proposal from Mitt Romney will restart monthly payments for millions of people. But unlike previous stimulus efforts, Romney's plan, which is officially known as the Family Security Act, could put the work requirements in place for millions of recipients. The Family Security Act will provide monthly benefits of up to $350 a month for families with children 0 to 5, and $250 per month to those with children ages 6 to 17. The maximum monthly payment for families would be $1,250, and expectant parents would be able to apply for benefits to begin 4 months prior to the child's due date. In a statement, Romney said his act creates a new national commitment to American families by modernizing and streamlining antiquated federal policies. The biggest element of Romney's plan is the inclusion of work requirements for payment recipients. Details on the exact requirements were not included in the plan, but a common threshold for a state-level benefit is 80 hours a week a month, or a comparable amount of job training or volunteer change.
They do it with these stamp-sized computers powered by Bluetooth and attached to any product or packaging.
Here, the federal government will seek to offset the canceled debt. This is a move likely impossible without congressional approval. According to the Treasury Department, as of February, the national debt stood at more than $30 trillion. The federal budget deficit, meanwhile, stood at $727 billion as the end of July. The White House's decision will only impact individuals with federal student loans of the more than $1.7 trillion owed in student debt nationally. The IRS has released a new announcement in regards to future relief payments. Now, the IRS will refund about $1 billion in penalties to 1.6 million individuals and business taxpayers who are not fined or for not filing their taxes or information returns on time for 2019 and 2020. The penalty relief detailed
hyperbole. Matt's the chair of the powerful subcommittee that controls the funding for public safety. He knows what it means investing in effective and accountable community policing that builds public trust and strengthens public safety. I'm old enough to remember when cops used to walk the beat in Wilmington and in Scranton because they knew everybody. They knew the kid. They knew if something was trouble. They knew whose house to go and knock on the door.
There are new eligibility requirements that lawmakers have agreed on. The new requirements have to be met by Americans in order to be further eligible for stimulus checks. Here is some big news. Residents of 13 states who received debt forgiveness from the federal government for their student loans needed to pay some state taxes on their forgiven amount. And according to
you may not know right.
Folks, we got a ton of news about the fourth stimulus check, Social Security news, SSI, and SSDI. Continue watching this video because you definitely don't want to miss out on this important stimulus check information. Action is being taken right now. Kevin McCarthy has just confirmed that a debt ceiling vote will likely happen on Tuesday, and this could save millions of Americans from huge financial changes from the federal government. Today, Kevin McCarthy announced that Congress will meet the deadline to raise the debt ceiling, acknowledging that no deal has been made by voting an agreement will be reached in time to prevent a government default. Janet Yellen raised the stakes in the marathon negotiations on Friday, when she provided the first hard deadline for when the government will be unable to pay down all of its obligations. June 5th, everybody, is a date. And asked if Congress can meet that deadline, McCarthy didn't hesitate to say yes. McCarthy vowed that he'll stick with the 72-hour rule, providing lawmakers the full 3 days to read the text of the legislation before they're asked to vote on it. McCarthy even said he's been in talks with Senate leaders about how much time they'll need to meet the June 5 deadline. And if a deal is reached tomorrow, that would set the stage for a House vote on Tuesday. McCarthy declined to name the barriers that remain as he and his deputies haggle with the White House negotiators over the last outstanding disagreements. But he said Republicans have not dropped the demand for permitting reform designed to eliminate regulatory hurdles to energy infrastructure projects. It's something Democrats have opposed for fear that it would degrade the environment at the expense of poor communities. McCarthy also confirmed that Republicans have been in discussions with Carson Sinema and moderate Democrats on particular issues. The speaker outlined the rollout of any deal and saying he would make a vague announcement that would withhold the details of any agreement to allow lawmakers to read the bill before the press and public do. Still, people all over the nation are now wondering what will happen to lawmakers if their personal finances are not met. Based on Social Security Administration payment schedules, a June 5 default might actually protect beneficiaries from the potential delayed checks and direct deposits, because individuals receiving the payments are still going to receive the money, but maybe in a later date. If the Treasury Department is unable to successfully prioritize payments for Social Security, the consequences for these groups can be devastating. Beyond the initial group of payees, the Social Security Administration monthly payment calendar suggests that there is a bit more breathing room for other beneficiaries, providing that lawmakers reach a deal beforehand and the next beneficiary payments are not expected until June 14th. So, the debt default picture is also cloudy for individuals who rely on Medicare and Medicaid to pay for bills. But the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services said that these government health programs are defaulting on the national debt and would severely damage the crucial health care programs that millions of Americans rely on. And since Yellen was the first on a debt default, she said it could happen within a few days of June. And the short-term U.S. borrowing costs have soared as investors demand greater return for the risk that they won't be paid on time.
Will not raise taxes on anyone making over 400,000 grand. And I'll pay for it all, my proposals, by making the wealthy and big corporations pay just a little bit more. Like I said, do you think a trillionaire should be paying at 3%? Look, I'm a capitalist. If you can make $1 million or $1 billion, I said trillion, if you make $1 billion or $1 million, God love you. But just...
I can't believe this is happening, folks. Millions of Americans will see their monthly benefits disappear. And the White House has already confirmed that Joe Biden will be ending the national public health emergency. And so what this means is that many low-income households, seniors, will see a drastic change to the monthly benefits. Now, the White House has officially announced today that Joe Biden intends to end his public health emergency. And that means that many Americans can have to start paying for testing and treatment after the declaration ceases. So the White House